Ahoy hoy, fellow nerds. I have absolutely no creativity whatsoever, so I don't know, I'll just call myself the tech geriatric for the purposes of this video. Considering the fact that I'm trying to raise 3 kids, work a full-time job, pay bills, all the while desperately trying to keep the business end of a shotgun out of my mouth, this will also probably be the only video I make like this, so none of this name stuff matters anyways. I know you're watching this strictly to see the tweaks I've made for temps and performance on this G14 4080, and I have timestamped the important parts, so if you don't want to listen to an old, emotionally bankrupt man ramble on incoherently, feel free to skip ahead to the juicy bits or the parts that you are interested in. I do know that there are quite a few videos related to either the 4060 or 4090 variants, but very few about the 4080. When I was looking and searching for information on the 4080 version, I found nothing. I found a couple of videos, neither of which was in English. So I'm just throwing my hat into the ring here. If another person in a similar situation wants to know a bit about the 4080 variant, then this might shed a bit of light on it. Which I also personally think is the sweet spot for this laptop. I think the 4080 version is just right. The 4060 and 47 versions, I think they make a lot more sense in this form factor. The fact that the 4060 and 4070 laptop chips top out performance-wise at 100 watts makes me wonder why any manufacturer offers them in laptops bigger than 15 inches. Like 140 watt 4070 is getting maybe a couple FPS more than a 100 watt version. So like, why do that? I just find NVIDIA's SKUs used to make sense, and now it seems like they're trying to sort of, pull some Tom Effery in a weird attempt to almost force people into buying a 4080 or 4090. So if you are shopping for a laptop and you happen to be here and you haven't made a decision yet, and you're looking at budget-wise, like the 4060 or 4070s, you might as well just go for a thinner and lighter laptop because, going for an 18-inch Strix Scar or an Alienware M18 with a 4060 or 4070, 140 watt, you're not getting any more performance than you would out of a 100 watt one. Unless you want the bigger form factor, the bigger screen and all that stuff. But I think, especially for the G14, like the thin and light gaming laptop, the 4060 and 4070 make a ton of sense. So a little about me and what has led to this abomination of a video. For a few years now, I've had a very, very unhealthy affection for gaming laptops. Do I leave my desk ever? No. Would it make far more practical performance and cost sense to build a desktop since my rotund behind typically stays shackled to my chair 100% of the time? Absolutely. So please don't remind me that I'm an idiot for focusing on gaming laptops when I very clearly have no need for one. You honestly can't tell me anything I haven't already said 3 inches from the mirror. So nothing will surprise me. I know laptops are not the thing I need. I just really like them. And because of that, I've had nearly every gaming laptop known to man. I mean, I've had them for a long time now. I think my first gaming laptop was like an Alienware M17 or M17. I can't remember. It was the old like second gen i7s with the GTX 460s and 470s. Like, we're talking old schools, and those things, ironically enough, were giant chunks of metal you could kill a horse with. But anyways, I've had laptops for a long time, and the typical pattern for me has been, I'd buy one off of Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace. I'd tell myself, this is awesome, I will have it forever, and then I'm selling it a week later in order to find my next victim based on some random use cases or needs or requirements that I think I desperately need at the time and really don't. And because of that, I've regretted getting rid of a few of them. Some of the notable ones included the Legion 7, the 2021 version with the 3080, Legion 5 Pro 2022 version with I think it was a 6800 HS or HX processor and a 3070 Ti, and an Alienware X17R1 with a gorgeous 4K screen and 3080. I loved all of those. I don't know why I got rid of them, but My first foray into the G17 in particular was a 2022 model. It was the one with the 6800S, and I absolutely loved that laptop before deciding I needed a bigger screen for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And I ended up actually getting a Legion Slim 7 AMD Advantage with the same 6800S. So a completely unrelated side note. Well, it's kind of related, but you know what I mean. I think AMD deserves some accolades for the 6800S. It was, in my opinion, the sleeper GPU of 2022 from a mobile perspective, and I don't think it gets nearly as much praise as it should. I read a lot of Reddit boards, and people who have it love the performance. People who don't find every possible way to criticize the performance. Honestly, it performed faster in games than full-powered 3070 laptops I owned, and it even gave a low-powered 3080 Ti a run for its money, all at 105 watts peak power. It's a fantastic GPU. If you have the G14 with 6800S, you have a fantastic laptop. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I was running everything that I could throw at it at like near max settings, and it performed wonderfully. So great GPU. Anyways, I wanted a 4080 or 4090 laptop, and I wasn't willing to donate organs to pay for it. So I'll tell you a bit about it in a little bit, but I did get a 4080 laptop at launch, and I returned it because the screen looked like a monkey smeared its liquid poop all over it. But anyways, more on that in a bit. I was shopping around, and seriously, like, Nvidia, can you take it easy with the prices this gen? It's nuts. The price on 4080s and 4090s is ridiculous. But anyways, I saw this G14 4080 on Facebook at a decent deal at the time. I think it was about 2,700 Canadian, which is like $14 US, and I pounced. And to be honest, at first I thought I made a massive mistake. Like, the temperatures were pretty high, and a low-powered 4080 isn't the same as a low-powered 4060 or 4070. Those cap off at 100 watts in terms of performance to power impact, but the 4080 typically benefits from more wattage. And I noticed that the 4080 in this G14 is consistently getting about 2,000 less in time spy than the full-sized 4080 laptops. And I'm thinking to myself, why the heck did I prioritize portability when I never take my laptop anywhere? Well, a few weeks into buying this laptop, I can honestly say that I'm in love. And I have, for reals this time, found my forever machine. I promise my dear wife I won't swap them out anymore. At least until next year, probably. Anyways, I'll give you a brief review of some of the things I love, some of the upgrades I've made, and then I'll get into some of the tweaks and adjustments that have led me to a really happy performance and temperature middle ground that I think works really well for the longevity of the laptop, but also gives me everything I need from performance. So the first thing that drew me to this laptop, as well as last year's 6800S G14, is the look. I absolutely adore the white aesthetic. My monitor, my headset, my former keyboard and mouse, as well as my current mic, are all white. If it's all white, it's all right. Oh, God, please don't cancel me. I really dig the anime matrix effect as well. I mean, sure, I never see any of it, and because I'm in my dungeon on my desk 100% of the time, no one else does either. But that's totally fine. It's still really cool. I have fun putting some, like a Pac-Man GIF on it, and once in a while I'll just peek around the corner, look at it, smile, and that's about it. I know that this year you either have to choose the Anime Matrix or the Mini LED version, which leads me into the next thing I love, which is, well, the screen. Now, I will say right off the bat that I'm positive the Mini LED is better. I'm not going to argue that with anyone. It is better. And if I actually had a chance to choose between the two for the same price, I would obviously go with the Mini LED version because I'm not a psychopath. But with that out of the way, the screen on this G14 is just as gorgeous as the one from the 2022 version. I get over 500 nits of brightness. It's 165 hertz. I don't see any ghosting. I don't see backlight bleed. It's an absolute pleasure to look at. And this is kind of what I hinted at earlier. When the 4080 and 4090 laptops first came out, I spent way too much on an Aorus 17X, which had the 4080 in it. Great laptop. It was built like a tank. It was all metal. It had a gaming aesthetic that I loved. It was awesome. But I actually returned it for the G14 6800S, primarily because of the screen. You know, the fact that any high tier laptop comes out in 2023 with a muddy sub 400 nits screen, and this one was, I think, around 320 nits, like that should be criminal. I honestly don't know why they would bother, especially with a laptop that price. Anyways, the keyboard is nice to type on, although my fat sausage fingers typically assault an external keyboard most of the time. If I had a silly complaint, it would be that the keyboard backlighting isn't super bright or noticeable, which is probably in part due to contrast against a white chassis and keys. But the rest is what you guys already know from any review. It's thin and light, the build quality is amazing, the trackpad feels premium, and the speakers are pretty clear and loud, especially for a laptop of this size. It's just a really well put together laptop, period. You know, as for fan noise, I'll get into that in a little bit, but you know, at full turbo blast, the fans on the 2023 G14 are a bit quieter than the 2022 model. Not by much, but they sound less angry, hurt, and miserable. They're more of a subtle vacuum sound as opposed to the ceaseless wail of a lich from beyond seeking vengeance. So definitely an improvement there. For upgrades, I did the usual that most people who get a G14 this generation do. The first was a 16 gig stick of Corsair Vengeance DDR5 4800 megahertz RAM. I know some people can put a 32 in there. The one thing I do like about this year versus last year is that it's 16 soldered onto the motherboard across all versions. It's not 8. When I had the 2022, I had a 16 gig stick, the same 16 gig stick, and 24 gigs of RAM just felt weird. I think 32 is good. I've seen some videos of people doing performance reviews between a 16 versus a 32 in this laptop, and it looks like the 16 performs a bit better in games, but not enough to dissuade you from a 32 if you need the extra headroom for content creation or stuff like that. I paired it with a Western Digital Black SN850X 2TB NVMe SSD drive. The 1TB that came with this laptop is a Samsung, and it's nice and speedy, but I wanted more space for all the AAA games I install, play for 15 minutes, and never load again because I'm a broken shell of the man I once was. My last hardware upgrade was replacing the Wi-Fi card with an Intel AX210. I mean, the MediaTek card wasn't awful by any means, and I think this one is better than previous iterations of the MediaTek cards, but I just find Intel a bit more stable with fewer speed dips. I did notice an improvement in just stability when I played Fortnite. In terms of laptop stands, I know this is a contentious topic. Some people swear by these brand name stands that have jet turbines hammer fisting air up into the bottom of their laptop, while others say, you know, just stick a book or a small animal under the back to prop it up. For me, personally, I picked up a Razer Chroma V2 stand last year during a sale, and it does the job nicely. I mean, it raises it up and has empty space underneath for lots of airflow, and it has the added benefit of a few useful USB ports, especially since this laptop, I mean, it has good port selections. It has a couple of USB-A, a couple of USB-C, but you know, having additional expansion is always a positive for a laptop like this. Last but not least, I was fortunate enough to purchase a used Asus with the, is it Asus or Asus? Anyways, purchased one with the original purchase receipt, and it hadn't been registered yet. So I promptly registered it and then purchased an additional year of warranty with 2 years of accidental. So this is an interesting thing for me. You know, one of the things that I love about Lenovo more than even the performance or how the laptops look is the warranty and how it follows the laptop, not the person. Like if you buy a Lenovo laptop and it's within the 12 months, you have no problem purchasing an extension yourself. That laptop is now yours. You have warranty. as far as I know, they're the only ones like this. I know Dell has great warranty coverage, but the ownership transfer process is like this harrowing 10 to 15 days of silence and hope as you submit the previous owner's information and cross your fingers and toes and hope for the best. I think Asus is like a lot of other, or a lot of most other manufacturers, where you have to have proof of purchase, and you also have to be the first to register. Those are pretty key. So just keep that in mind if you're purchasing a used one. Even if you have proof of purchase, you won't be able to register it as your laptop unless the previous owner contacts Asus and unregisters themselves. This especially comes into play if you're buying this as like open box or used from Best Buy, for example, because the previous owner probably registered it. You don't know who that is, so you probably won't be able to buy extended warranty. Ultimately, I don't think it's a super important thing, but I've become very risk adverse in my old age, and having the weighted security blanket of a warranty is important to me, especially with a laptop that's this small and thin and prone to generate heating with all of the components inside of it. I want to have that extra security. Now we're finally on to the part that most of you actually care about, which is the tweaks. And as I promised, I have a few of them that I found very interesting and we'll talk through in this portion of the video. The main heads up before I jump in is sort of the basic setup process that I followed. So to start, I did a clean install of Windows 11. I downloaded most of the drivers from the Asus support site, with the exception of some of the key ones. So the AMD chipset and graphics drivers I got directly from the AMD site, the NVIDIA drivers from the NVIDIA site, and the the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth drivers from the Intel site. So here's a big one to remember. I installed the Armoury Crate Game Services driver, but I did not install Armoury Crate itself. I just did a clean G-Helper install, which is the tool I use for most of this video in terms of temperatures and adjustments. Yes, you can uninstall Armoury Crate after the fact, but I have no idea how to do that properly, and I didn't want to have to bother with that, so I just didn't. A side note to the drivers, you should definitely back up the eSupport folder, which is in the root of your hard drive prior to reformatting or swapping drives. It has all of the original drivers and software for your laptop. I do know that some Asus machines, like the G15 Advantage Edition, which I also owned twice, don't ask, it'll literally blow up or stutter itself to death without first installing the eSupport drivers, so you have the Asus generated ones. I don't know why it affects some laptops and not others. Even with the 2022 G14, I got better performance and stability just getting the latest stuff from the AMD website. This one so far is no different. Just keep the eSupport folder in your back pocket, store it on a USB stick or something, just in case. I will tell you right now that I'm not going to show any TimeSpy or synthetic benchmark crap in this video. I've already gone on Reddit and posted a TimeSpy score a couple weeks ago when I was feeling, young and innocent and excited. I think I got 16,700 and change without the extra 16 gig upgrade, without the clean install or the tweaks I'm going to talk about. So it's a pretty decent score out of the box, but honestly, I just find the synthetic benchmarks pretty useless. I mean, I don't care if I can hit 17,000 graphics on this thing. I do care that I can play Fortnite at 120 to 165 FPS without dropped frames or other issues. Yes, I play Fortnite as a grown man. Leave me alone. So the first thing you need to do is expose the additional CPU boost settings in power plans. There are a ton of write-ups and videos on how to do this, but if you're a lazy slob like I am, I'm going to show you here. So the first thing we're going to have to do is expose the additional CPU boost settings in power plans. There are a ton of write-ups and videos on how to do this, and they are all, I promise you, 1,000 times better and more concise and detailed than this one. But if you're an absolute lazy slob like I am, I'm going to show you here. So the first thing you're going to do is come down to this little search bar, and I just type regedit, define registry editor, and I open that. Yes, Windows, I want to ruin my life. And you're going to come to this screen here. You're going to want H key local machine. And of course, I already have these all expanded because I'm an idiot. But you're going to come to System, and then Current Control Set, and then Control. And you're going to scroll down all the way to Power, and then Power Settings, and then these two fun ones. So they look like a jumble of crap, but the first one you're going to want is 545-33251. And you're going to expand that, and then you're going to go down to, it's this BE, and I'm looking for BE. Where are you, BE? Here we go, BE 337238. Just click there, and you're going to have some options here. You're going to want to double click on attributes. And if this is any number other than 2, you want to change it to 2 and then click OK. And that's it. You close that up. And now when you want to go in and properly disable or edit CPU boost, I just go to search and I start typing edit and then click power plan here. Right now it's on balanced, but for all the plans, you're going to want to change advanced power settings. It'll open this window here. You're going to go to processor power management and then processor performance boost mode. Okay, so you can disable for battery or plugged in. I typically, and with the 2022 version, I used efficient aggressive when it was plugged in. That was my go-to and when I was gaming or needing things that required a lot of horsepower. That is not the case with this laptop, and I will get into that in a little bit. But this is essentially how you sort of change the CPU boost settings on all the power plans. Okay, so just bear with me a bit. This is the first time I'm ever trying to use OBS to record my screen. So this is going to be just an absolute hack job. But I just want to focus in on G-Helper here to go over some of my settings. And by the way, having G-Helper in your taskbar showing temps is mwah. It is the chef's kiss. I donated to the guy managing G-Helper, and you should too. What a spectacular app. Anyways, there are 3 modes available. There's silent, there's balanced, and there's turbo. Honestly, I left silence and balanced alone, with the exception of turning CPU boost to disabled. I'm going to open up the fans here and show you. So on balanced, on silent, CPU boost is disabled. Okay. For turbo, I did a few things here, and this is my hardcore gaming profile. I use this whenever I play, a harder AAA title, not necessarily like a Stellaris or something. This will be for the big guys like Baldur's Gate 3 or Cyberpunk. I edited the fan curve here to kind of max out, to kind of get chubby kid in a candy store aggressive as the temps rise. I also maxed out the GPU overclock settings to 250 apiece. I left these the same. And under advanced, I undervolted the CPU by 20. Now, I don't know what this means, but as someone who braved the wildlands of throttle stop on an X17R1, I think this helps a tiny bit. Now, the last adjustment I made on all profiles, especially the gaming focused turbo, was to disable CPU boost. Now, I will fully accept that I may be doing something wrong or missing some key step here. Maybe this observation is completely incorrect, and I'm very open to being challenged on it. But I have noticed absolutely no discernible difference in game or productivity performance with this boost set to disabled versus efficient aggressive or something else. Maybe it has something to do with the 4080 picking up all of the performance slack in games. I don't think I play many heavy CPU focused games, which may be another factor. But I do know in Fortnite and Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk, Final Fantasy 15, Civilization 6, none of them show any discernible frame rate dips or impact with boost disabled. I'm sure the story changes dramatically if I'm editing videos or doing content nerd stuff, but my temperatures stay very manageable on disabled while getting amazing FPS. If someone smarter than me can investigate and confirm or disprove this, I'll fly to your location and give you a friendship cookie. But as far as I can tell, leaving it disabled only impacts the temperatures and keeps the temperatures down dramatically. As you'll notice, I also adjusted the power limits here a bit. CPU slow and CPU fast. So the high quick boost I limited to 100. I think I did this to try to force additional space for 125 watts on the GPU, but I don't know if that's necessary. And the low, I just kept to 45. And again, this gets fantastic performance in pretty much everything I throw at this. When it comes to temperatures, with the earlier mentioned turbo settings, the CPU rarely hits 80 degrees. I think it maybe touches 80, but it never goes above that. And the GPU never reaches that number. On balanced, with no tweaks at all, my idle temperatures are high 40s. I find that to be pretty acceptable for a laptop like this thin and light, and I never feel the need to bump down to silent, aside from the odd occasion where I actually leave my desk with my computer. As I ramble incoherently here, I'm showing temperature readings from a few games to give you an idea of what I'm noticing, and I'll label them CPU boost on or off to give you an idea. The 4080 in here is a low-powered one with 125 watts of maximum power. However, in games, I never seem to get above 115 watts, even with an upgraded 280 watt power adapter, which I stupidly thought would give me more headroom to see higher wattage. However, from a performance perspective, I have absolutely nothing to complain about. I mean, I play pretty much everything maxed out with triple digit frame rates, which is mind blowing considering the size of this thing. Honestly, well done, Asus. Well done. Just anecdotal, I will create a chart and summarize it here. But I'm getting on average about 130 to 160 FPS in Fortnite. I have DX12, I have DLSS set to quality, and I have all settings set to high with shadows, I think on medium or disabled. I think I have disabled. Fortnite, for whatever reason, seems to bring everything to its knees right now with their Unreal Engine. I don't know why. Fortnite of all games would be the one to do it. I don't see this in any other game. Baldur's Gate, I have it at 1440p, absolute ultra max settings, everything loaded to the gills, and I get about 150 to 160 FPS. And I think trying to think Cyberpunk, everything is maxed out, including ray tracing, and I'm above 100, which is just madness. It's madness for this computer. Now, on to the mad scientist experiments I ran. One was related to the VBIOS, and actually, all of them were VBIOS. Credit where credit is due. I think his name's Modern Josh, with no E between the D and the R on Reddit. He started this bug with me with his experiment on the 4090 variant, where he did some craziness with VBIOS on his G14, and Ice Storm NG facilitated my madness with his donation of the 4080 VBIOS from the M16, from the Zephyrus M16. I flashed both that one as well as the 175 watt variant from the Strix Scar onto my G14. You absolutely read that correctly. I had a 175 watt 4080 VBIOS installed on this G14. Unfortunately, I wasn't willing or knowledgeable enough to go as far as the others who blazed this trail. I didn't want to fool around with MSI Afterburner to lock wattage, nor did I want to, roll back drivers or disable features or conduct other shenanigans. So I didn't take it as far as I could have. just in all cases, I never saw the GPU use the additional headroom, with both the M16's 150 watt and the Strix's 175 watt variants peak at around 127 to 130 watts for very brief moments. Now, at the time, I had Armory Crate installed, and it still showed a 125 watt TGP despite NVIDIA Control Panel showing the higher 150 or 175 ones, respectively. In addition, the 150 watt VBIOS from the M16 essentially disabled the right-hand USB-C, which is the one that also has DisplayPort that connects directly to the NVIDIA card. So it worked as a USB-C port, just not a display port. So I had to use the USB-C on the left side to get my monitor going, which connects to the integrated graphics. I suppose I could have used HDMI, but I mean, HDMI, yuck. Honestly, at the end of the day, the performance is epic enough that I just didn't feel the need to go crazy trying higher watt VBIOSes. The trade-offs just weren't worth it, in my opinion. If you want to try it, I mean, go nuts. I'm not going to post links to anything related to the VBIOS craziness in this video. If you really do want to dive into that and try it, I'm not going to endorse it. You put yourself and your laptop at risk for bricking. So, you know, your mileage may vary and you're on your own. I will send you links in a private message or email if you really want to go down that route. But I am telling you, it will not give you much more than you're already getting. So it really isn't worth it. So you're probably telling yourself, the one part that he's missing is battery life. Why hasn't he talked about battery tweaks to extend life away from the plug? Because the damn thing doesn't leave my desk, remember? Set mode to silence, set GPU to eco, laptop screen to 60 hertz, turn off the crazy lighting, and just go for it. I honestly don't know how to maximize battery life. I've never, ever in my life gotten the battery life that people with the same laptop get. I've seen on forums people getting 9 to 10 hours with this thing. I mean, I get maybe 5 to 6. I'm sure there are other tweaks I could do. I do have an idle watt draw that's really high compared to other people. I don't know what processes are running to do that. But I also charge the battery to 60% to maintain the life of it. So I never really charge to 100%. The bottom line is I don't know how to help you with the battery. You're on your own there. Do some more research. This is essentially a desktop that's tiny with a little screen for me. So I'm not really the person to talk to. So there you have it. My random all over the place review / first impressions / tweaks opinion piece on the 2023 G14 4080 version. The fact that I have upgraded the crap out of it and purchased extended warranty should say all that's needed to be said. But the bottom line is that this is probably the best all-around gaming laptop I have ever owned in my entire life. It honestly ticks all of the boxes from a portability and performance balance perspective. And the fact that I have the temperatures in a very comfortable position through all use cases has me extremely happy. Again, I don't suggest that I'm an expert or correct in any of the content in here. So if you notice anything different than I do, good on you. You know, please let me know if I did something wrong, if a setting wasn't set properly, or if I'm misreading things, and I will be the first to admit, you know, that you were right and I made a mess. I'm just a guy who wants to get the most out of what I have. And I noticed some funny things here, funny in a good way, not necessarily in a bad way. So now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to shut down for the day so I can spend my precious little free time dragging my kids kicking and screaming to some semblance of a post-secondary education, all while my wife watches the little bit of masculinity I tenaciously hold on to slip away forever. Excelsior!